Welcome to the Wellness Abundance Podcast. I'm Melissa King, your podcast host, board-certified health and wellness coach, certified personal trainer, and founder of Wellness Abundance Coaching. I created this podcast to help women like you learn more about your body so you can age gracefully and navigate the different seasons of your life effortlessly. If you're a woman searching for answers to unexpected weight gain, intense PMS, chronic fatigue, fertility challenges, PCOS, brain fog, and more, this podcast is for you. We'll do a deep dive into all areas of women's health and connect with experts so you can get clarity on what's happening within your body. This will empower you to take control of your mindset on the natural aging process and create flexible lifestyle habits that work for you at any age. Now, grab your favorite glass of wine, cup of coffee, or mocktail, and enjoy the episode. Welcome back to another Wellness Abundance podcast episode. I'm so excited to have my guest on today, Dr. Cece. She is the owner of Simply Well Chiropractic in Seal Beach, California. So Dr. Cece and I connected at a fertility expo several months back, and I was really excited to connect with her because she works with women. And of course, we all know that that's my specialty is women's health. So I'm going to go ahead and just let Dr. Cece introduce herself. And if you just want to share like whatever you want, how you got into chiropractic care, like what inspired you, anything about your background that you feel that you'd like to share with us. And we'll start there. How's that sound?
Of course. Well, thank you for having me. We already kind of chatted, this is my first appearance as a guest on the podcast, so I'm just super excited.
Yay, welcome.
Yeah. And too, it was really nice to connect at a fertility a conference or event, if you'd like to say it that way. Just more towards geared around helping women know a little bit more about fertility struggles and then some of the different like methods and alternatives that can kind of help with that. So, yeah, it's just been real exciting. But I am a chiropractor in Seal Beach. This is my 6th year in practice down here, but I've been kind of in the chiropractic world for a very long time. My first job ever was at a chiropractic office, so definitely just something I've kind of grown and evolved with over the years. But we have a family practice in Seal Beach, and so one of the reasons that we do that is because we find that when not only, moms, babies, kids, when the whole family is really getting connected and getting well, that usually just sets a really good foundation for, generations to come, but also just really positively can impact the community too. So that's kind of the big why behind why we do what we do.
That's great. I love the idea of like getting the whole family on board because I feel like that makes a big difference.
It does.
It's just so much easier to really just create those healthy lifestyle habits when you do it together as a family team. And whatever that family looks like to you, right? For me, it's just my husband and I. But, we're like, we're bound together and we're like, we're doing this. This is a partnership and it looks different for everyone in the family. But I think that's really cool because one thing I know, like years ago, I had a client and her husband would not get on board with just eating like whole nutrient dense foods. And that was like a constant conversation, like an ongoing conversation she and I would have. Eventually he got on board with it, but that's one thing I hear a lot from women is that they struggle to get their kids and partners on board. So I love that you just work together with the whole family. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's really underplayed how just again getting that environment on board with everything. Obviously, you can't force people, but it's just really difficult to be in an environment that is really not supporting like your health and wellness or even supporting your growth. And we talk about it in office a lot because you can't really heal in the same environment that made you sick. And so those changes kind of have to occur. And so, again, taking a little bit of pressure off the mom, because moms already have so much pressure to deal with everything in the household. I mean, that is the pulse. They're the nervous system of the home.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to, take a little pressure off of them and having, a little bit more of like a team mentality with it is usually how we can really help that just in long term too. It's really funny. Usually like the men are some of the last ones to come into the practice, but they're always happy at that point.
Yeah, I know. It's so interesting to me how the men they resist. They build that resistance up for so long, and then um, eventually
Yeah, I don't
it
know
breaks
what it
down
is.
and they're like, I'm just gonna get on board with it. And then they end up loving it, right?
I mean, maybe there might be some societal things there because you're the man, you're not supposed to need help and you need to do all
Yep.
these things too. And women weirdly have that in a different realm. And so I think maybe just trying to bridge that gap is where the benefit can come from. Maybe.
Yeah. And there's also like a stigma too, I think, that a healthy lifestyle can't be fun, it can't be enjoyable. And like with food, I know it won't, like, people feel like, oh,
Oh,
I
they're
just,
missing out. And it's like, oh, but once you go the opposite way, you don't even want to go back. Like it's
exactly.
such a 180. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I
Hmm.
think there's a Bruce Lipton quote, and it's says something like it's not our environment that always makes us sick. It's us not wanting to let go of the things that keep
Hmm.
us sick. And so, that can be in so many different categories. I mean, in our practice, we talk a lot about those categories in like physical terms, chemical or emotional, and how that kind of impacts your day to day. But, relationships are a huge part of it, society, support. Like, there's so many facets of like being well that really come into
Yeah.
play. And you're not
Yeah.
meant to do it alone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need to have that. It's important to have that support system. So it just makes it so much easier. So, yeah, I'll just share this one quick anecdote about my client from years ago who her husband was resistant for so long. She would make him dinner and then her a separate meal and make more for herself so she could have lunch the next day. And after several weeks, he started eating her food. And she was like, Melissa, I don't have lunch for the next day anymore because he's eating it because he likes
Good.
it.
Just kidding.
And I
Good.
was like, yes. And she's like, no, I don't like that because he's eating my food. But anyway, so it was kind of fun to once he got on board, it was like, okay, now this is the next challenge. Like he's eating all the food. Now I need to make more. But anyways, yeah.
Growing pains, as we call it.
Growing pains. Yes.
Growing pains.
Once you hit one milestone and you overcome one hurdle, another one arises, right? So, but cool. So tell us a little bit more, if you want to go into a little bit more detail about what you do in your practice
Yeah.
specifically.
So I think we're a little different than what most think of like traditional chiropractic is. We really focus heavily on the nervous system and how the function of your nervous system kind of impacts your day to day. I don't think a lot of people are too aware. They might be a little bit more now because it's kind of popular on social media, but we really live our lives through our nervous system. And so your quality of life really depends on how high functioning your nervous system can be. And so in our office, that's kind of what we're focusing on more so, not just kind of what these physical manifestations or symptoms are kind of allowing or inhibiting us to do, but really on that deeper level, what we can do to kind of help just build that better quality of life. And so we do that very like intentionally, very systematically, and really kind of try to set the foundation that this is a process over time. This isn't something that's going to happen in 1 week, 2 weeks. It's going to be a little bit more of that marathon to get those long-term results that are truly what people want.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of people say they want like the quick fix and the short term gains, but the reality is, yeah, most people want the long term sustainable, you know,
Yeah.
the long term health. So, yeah, I noticed that too.
And not to knock anybody's experience, because again, when you are in a crisis or you're in some kind of acute stress or just, you know, season that's, very stressful. Of course, no one wants to be in that.
Right.
So there's a time and place always, but definitely kind of making sure like we really focus so much on that foundation and that root to just start building healthy lives earlier than trying to kind of backtrack and do it later in life.
Yeah. So how do you work with moms? Like, I know you, last time when we first chatted and I've looked at your website, at your services and what you offer, you help like postpartum, you work with moms postpartum and, kiddos and everything. So what would you say if you would just want to share a little bit maybe about how you work with postpartum or even just moms in general?
And it's so difficult because unfortunately, moms are usually the people who put themselves last.
Hmm.
So we have majority of a pediatric practice, and it's again we have great moms, so they want to make sure that their child is obviously going to be like secure, have healthy normal development, and a lot of just those kind of like obviously good maternal instincts. Typically, once that stressor goes away and little ones are doing better, they're eating, growing, doing all the things they're supposed to do, that's often when mom kind of has the breathing room to then focus on herself and be like, I think I need to take care of myself now. And so it's kind of a little sidestep, but more so with just taking care of moms, we really, again, I said it, they're kind of the nervous system of their household. They kind of control everything else. They're the pulse of the family. And so really getting to allow and kind of set that stage, just really, again, kind of big picture wise, just kind of goes forward and shares all the positive things that moms can do. And also be like present with their kids. I think so many moms have so many things going on that they're constantly just like managing things and taking the minute to be like, I can be calm in my body. I can, enjoy this moment without feeling rushed is something that we really try to focus on too. So
Hmm.
it's a little bit of a side step to take care of moms, but often once, the rest of the family is content, then moms kind of get a little peak of interest and then want to come take care of themselves.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
postpartum wise, kind of as you said, that's just a huge transition,
Mm.
and it's something
Mhm.
that I feel is really dropped off a lot. The whole pregnancy, labor, delivery, again, there's so much happening with that once the baby's here, it's kind of like mom's forgotten. And now you have this life to care for, and this is what's important. And it very much is. But, moms, they went through a massive transition physically,
Yeah.
emotionally. Their neurology has changed at that point. How they view the world is completely different. And there's really no like grace period to integrate. So,
Mhm.
kind of helping, again, what we try to focus on is really helping mom's nervous system be prepared for all of that.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, cool. So, yeah, so mom has just gone through this traumatic experience. Her body has physically changed over 9 months, just growing this tiny little
Your brain
human.
changes.
And the brain changes. I've heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've read that how much like the brain changes. And then she goes through the traumatic experience of actually physically giving birth, which I can't even imagine. I mean, I've never actually given birth, but I can only imagine like just like the physical trauma that happens to your body, but just the emotional and the mental trauma.
Yeah, it's like conceptually too, because I don't have children of my own, but conceptually, just what I do know, I'm just like, what I know is probably not, doesn't even touch the surface of what you're actually experiencing.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember my sister said something to me years ago. I think it was when my oldest nephew was born, who he's 22, going on 23 this year. So this was obviously
But
years
it's stuck
ago.
with you.
But it stuck with me that my sister
Hmm.
said to me that she was so used to like her getting all the attention because she was pregnant. And then Dakota was born, and all of a sudden, all the attention goes to him, the baby,
Yeah.
because, and then I remember her sharing. I hope my sister does. I share stories about my sister all the time, but it's okay. We're close. But I remember her kind of making a few comments to me, like, and a lot of it could have been just the hormones. going through her body,
Yeah.
that maybe she was a little bit more emotional, a little bit more sensitive, and sleep deprived. Sleep does a lot for your
Yeah.
emotions and your mental state. I know when I don't get good sleep, just one tiny little thing, I just snap,
Oh,
and
your
I just have
reserve goes down
a
immensely.
huge meltdown, and my husband's like, "Oh my God, what's wrong? Are you okay? Like, what's going on
It,
right now?"
it's so crazy though too,
Yeah.
because again, within my practice, I always see a lot of moms just doing so much, and again, there's probably so many layers to why that's happening. Um, but more often than not, I'm not always recommending them to like start a supplement, start working out, and do this stuff.
Mhm.
I'm more of the times I'm telling them to actually take a rest, actually go to sleep, because you just need to heal, and you can't keep pushing your reserve like that. I know it's so much easier said than done. It's not something that they can just like disconnect from. But I think the reminder just being like, no, you did do a lot. You are doing a lot, and you need to also rest and recover to keep that.
Yeah.
It's huge. Again, if you don't have the reserve, your nervous system is just, it's smart. And if you don't have the reserve, it's going to go to survival mode versus this reparative mode. And that's just kind of, again, the same mentality. You can't really heal in the same environment that made you sick. Your body's going to kind of pick and choose what it needs. And, unfortunately, your hormone regulation is going to be a little bit last on that priority list if it needs to like keep you in survival mode.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think maybe right now I think it would be helpful to really kind of share a little bit about like what the nervous system
Oh,
is
yeah.
and what it
Bread and butter.
does. And what's that?
This is my bread and butter.
Yeah, I know. And I'm so fascinated with the nervous system with everything in my life. I'm always, what's my nervous system doing? So yeah. So if you want to share just a little bit about like what the nervous system is, the different parts of it, and
Okay.
yeah.
I guess recording wise, I guess how deep do you want me to go?
As-
Because there's things like the primitive brain, and honestly,
Mhm.
in postpartum, that actually sparks up the amygdala because you now have a thing to survive and care for. Um, but I could just do like what your nervous system is,
Mhm.
what its job is doing, kind of the different parts, and how it kind of manages.
Sounds great. Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, well, again, your nervous system is kind of that main central network of your body that controls and coordinates everything. So that's kind of comprised of your brain and spinal cord. And then from there, there's an array of nerves that are both like sensory and motor. So sensory is kind of what we're feeling from our environment, and motor is kind of those action things that we're doing. And so, again, your nervous system's job is just to perceive its environment, take all that information in, and then organize it accordingly. When what we notice is when there's an issue in any of those processes is what will trigger your autonomic nervous system into a fight or flight response, or into more of a parasympathetic or rest and digest response. So your autonomic nervous system is kind of a branch within your central nervous system, and its main job is just to kind of focus on all the automated functions that your body does to keep you alive, but also the things that you don't really think about. So, sleep, blood pressure, heart rate, digestion is even part of that. So, all these things that you're not consciously telling your body to do. And so, again, within that, it's going to kind of be a little bit of like a teeter between the two.
Mhm.
We always love like a healthy nervous system to kind of go between the two pretty seamlessly. Over time, if we're kind of getting I don't want to say re-triggered, but reintroduced to so many things that stress us into that fight or flight response, we get kind of prepped and primed to be stuck there, because that's our nervous system telling us that like we are in survival mode. We have to be here to survive. Um, and unfortunately, that's not always the case in all the situations.
Mhm.
So that's not going to keep going. But again, with your nervous system, it's kind of that fight or flight versus your parasympathetic. And I know right now on social media, like stimulating your parasympathetic nervous system is like all the craze. That's where like cold plunges will come into play, and like red light therapies and deep breathing and breath work. And like those all really work to get a like short term reset. Um, the hard part is rewiring your nervous system when it's been maybe stressed for so many years to come out of that.
Mhm.
And so, again, with our practice, we see it with, honestly, moms have more of a chronic pattern when it comes to stress. But more and more often, we're seeing little ones with these chronic patterns too, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what do you think?
Tell you.
What's that?
I was like, let me tell you. Just kidding.
Yeah, well, I'm curious, like, what do you think is causing that? Because that's really like I get like the adults and I get the women specifically. I study women's health, and I do know that women tend to have higher stress levels, higher anxiety, higher rates of depression than men, because we feel like we need to do a lot more than we actually really need to do. We're not very good
Yeah.
at asking for help, which I'm guilty of that. My husband and I were just
I
having
think
this
we're all guilty
conversation
of
this
it to
morning.
some degree.
Yeah, exactly. But so with the kids, like what do you think, or what have you found is like causing that chronic like fight or flight, like that chronic like not so good stress happening?
Yeah. And again, too, like, again, I do try to make it like this isn't negative or positive in it because you need both to kind of survive. And they kind of teeter totter. So you're always trying to find this like balance or homeostasis the best you can. Um, but it's not even that you can find the balance, it's that you can kind of go in and out of it without having these like massive kind of ups and downs. On the whole, and say like on the like very extreme side of the sympathetic is when we get like panic attacks and anxiety. On
Mm-hmm.
on the extreme side of that parasympathetic function is where we get immune challenges and hormone dysregulation. So
Mm-hmm.
you kind of need both. But with these kind of chronic patterns and things coming up with kiddos, honestly, it's a little bit of a two-parter for me, but our society is just not designed to support our nervous system or our body's health. So that's really difficult. Um, we are just bombarded with just, environmental stressors, nutritional stressors, and even just the emotional kind of stressors too. Unfortunately, again, our nervous system job is to like perceive that environment. So even in the home, if there's some type of like familial stress, we're going to pick up on that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of building into it. But, you know, the start of this chronicity, honestly, for my opinion, is from conception and fertility, which is why we were kind of at that clinic together to bring it full
Yeah.
circle. But a lot of these things start to come into play because there's a lot of fertility struggles with mom during conception. And that emotional stress, that chemical stress, again, there's lots of extra things getting added to their bodies at that point. That when conception happens, we're already kind of starting off in a state that's a little bit more of a stressed environment. And then, mom and baby, they're always co regulating through this whole process of pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that'll just carry over. So we see these patterns kind of deep within the nervous system at that point. And typically, when we just talk to mom and listen to what she has to say, we'll usually find out that there was some type of emotional struggles, emotional stress kind of through pregnancy. And it's not to like blame, because that's
Right.
never the case. But it's just kind of bringing the awareness that, like, yes, these are struggles, but they can start to kind of impact us later on too.
Yeah. Okay, I'm really fascinated by this.
I'm like
Um,
epigenetics. I gets all into
yeah,
it.
totally. Total epigenetics. Epigenetics are, for those of you who don't know, like how your environment kind of stresses you out, and you get these
Yeah, it'll
genes.
influence the expression of your genes at that
Yes.
point. So that's why I don't know, they do it on twins a lot, like identical twins, and certain
Hmm.
environments will induce other maybe health concerns or other issues and such.
Yes, and this is why, and I learned this years ago, like back in 2012 when I met my husband, he introduced me to all this like epigenetics and like how nutrition
Cool.
and exercise like impact. I mean, I've always been fascinated with health and wellness, but it wasn't until I feel like what I learned in like quote unquote my nutrition classes in high school and everything, I uh, was not what I know now. So
Yeah.
I grew up in the 90s. And by the way, fun fact, Dr. Cece and I actually went to the exact same high school, even though
You
we
did.
live in Southern California, 2 hours away from each other right now. But we found out that we went to the exact same high school
In
in
good
a
old
completely
Nevada.
different state. So it's such a small world. So I just wanted to share that fun fact. I think I hope you don't mind me sharing that.
No, not at all.
But it was fun. It just made me think about that because I think back to like my nutrition class in high school at McQueen, and this was back in the 90s, late 90s, and I'm like, because my husband and I talk about this too. He's older, he's 5 years older than me, but we talk about like how our nutrition was not good in the 80s and 90s. Like what we thought was healthy, because our parents grew up in like the low fat era,
Hmm.
and that could
Which is
have
so bad. It's so bad for
it's
women.
so bad. I know, especially for women. We need fat women. You need to eat your healthy fats. But
Honestly, if I could share a really quick story about that, because
yeah.
same thing with this, like the low fat and low carb, all this kind of stuff. I have three brothers, and so most boys are focused on bulking and like
Yeah.
whey protein. And so obviously I'm the only girl, so that kind of got trickled down a little bit, but I just realized like it didn't work with me. And when I was an undergrad, my nutrition class, we actually had to like analyze our diet and our diet and our blood like it was very intensive, and honestly I think I learned so much from that. So you and our nice job.
Yeah.
But when I did it, it said that I needed more fat in my diet. And I was already like considering myself healthy. I didn't eat processed foods and all this kind of stuff. And I was so stubborn, and I was like, I'll show them that they're wrong for some reason.
Yeah.
And I was like, fine, I'll eat fat. So I went and got like cheeseburgers, and just, I was such a brat with it. But I went back and redid it, and everything improved. And I was like, I have to realize that they were right.
Yes.
And looking into it is when I realized like women's hormones run the show so much more than men. And unfortunately, a lot of our, studies or what's recommended has only been done on men. And so
Yeah.
learning more of how your hormones need to like be created and supported is through high protein and high fat.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Okay. I think you're one of the many, like, in the last couple of years I've been doing this podcast, one of the many female experts in the health and wellness space that have said that, like protein and fats, like proteins, yeah, healthy fats.
Yeah.
There are some bad fats that will, if you have too much of them, will cause a
They're
lot
like,
of inflammation.
yeah,
But like,
monounsaturated, it's not good. But
yeah, so we don't want you just to go like, just chug a bunch of fat,
no, no, no,
but
no.
in protein, the protein intake too is huge. And I always do this. So my husband can go super low carb, super like almost carnivore, like ketovore, and he loves it. He does
Mm-hmm.
really well. He thrives on it. Me, on the other hand, I can do it for like once a week. I could go a day where I eat a lot of meat, and like barely any, if any, vegetables, and I'm fine. But then like a couple days later, I'm on a hike or I'm doing a workout, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I have like I feel
No
like I have
energy.
no energy in my muscles. My muscles just feel so fatigued. So then
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I need to eat some starchy carbs, some potatoes, maybe some rice, depending on what I feel like. But so
It's
I'm
so
really,
crazy though. It's just so crazy because
yeah,
I know all these fad diets and like keto and fasting. I'm like, fasting is honestly maybe one of the worst things a woman can do because it triggers your fight or flight response, um, which is going to stop your hormones. So
yeah.
to try to make it so simple, but there's so many of these fad diets, and it's like if you're hungry, like just eat, please, just eat
Just
something.
Yeah, and
We care.
I teach my clients, and do my best to practice this myself. Is I eat in the morning when I'm hungry, lots of protein, like a protein forward breakfast, and then lately this week, as of this recording, what I've been doing, actually the last couple weeks, is if I'm not hungry after I teach my noon group fitness class, I just don't eat. I'm really, so in a way I'm fasting, but I'm just not hungry, and I just don't want to eat
Yeah.
because I ate such a protein forward meal, but it's really just following your hunger levels so you're not
Which
throwing your hormones
I was like,
out of
this
whack.
gets into so many other things, but I think a lot of
Yeah.
women struggle of like what to do and how, because we're really disconnected with our bodies. So we don't
Hmm.
really know how to pick up on these hunger cues and take the time to just be like, am I hungry? Like, what is happening within my body? What do I need? And honestly, just being told a lot of times we don't know or dismiss with what we're feelings and stuff like that. So I think that maybe is where the like concern and like, let me try this, let me try this. But I mean, for if women really do want to focus on their like hormone health, like you saying, following your body's natural cues, one of the biggest things is just making sure you regulate that blood sugar so you don't spike into that fight or flight high cortisol. Because immediately when you're in that, your body registers that we are in danger and we need to survive. We don't have
Yeah.
time to eat. There's no point. We got to go.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what, yeah, you want the fight or flight to kick in if you're actually physically in danger and
Yeah,
there's an actual crisis, like and which to be honest with you, these days,
it's everywhere. But I was like, there's a lot of
I
things.
mean, our bodies think like think that we're in fight or flight, but the reality is we're actually 99% of the time not in an actual life-threatening fight or
Survival issue. Yeah.
survival issue, but your body it's just our genes, but when you're when you're eating enough protein, enough healthy fats, then your hormones just kind of naturally do
What they're designed to do.
what they're designed to do. Exactly. Yes. Thank you for saying that. That's a great way to put it. They do exactly what they're designed to do. I always say, like, when we give our bodies the appropriate input, it will provide us with the optimal output. So,
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of going to the nervous. I always tie everything to the nervous system and that input to output. It should be matched. When it's not, that's typically when we have some of these like health challenges or different physical manifestations of just stress kind of showing up.
yeah.
And
So,
women, it's just
yeah.
so different for women versus men. And I mean, honestly, I care for both. Not to limit men's stressors because there's a lot there too, but we're focusing on women. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just different. We're just different and we're more complicated, which,
yeah,
unfortunately, unfortunately, and
just is why
fortunately,
we're so fun. Just kidding. But
I know. I know. It's so funny. My husband, though, is so great. He just like, because I've been learning, doing such a deep dive the last like 3 or 4 years into women's health. So he hears me talk about it, but it also helps him to understand me better. So, ladies, if you're listening and your husband or your partner or any
support
man
system.
support system, your sons, um, your brothers, your uncles, your dads, any man in your life that is not understanding you, maybe educate them a little bit on what's going on inside your body. You don't have to give them a lot of personal details if you don't want to, but just kind of share the basics of, you
Just
know?
the basic physiology of what's happening within your
Yep.
cycle. It sounds kind of simple because we go through it our entire lives. Again, but I have three brothers. Like I was surrounded by men growing up, and they have a 24-hour system cycle. So the second they wake up, their energy's high, and then it slowly goes down, and then it kind of just circulates back up. And women were not like that. We're on just a longer, slow build stretch to kind of a decline and understanding the like stages within your cycle of when you're in, follicular, luteal, ovulation,
Mhm.
menstrual, like understanding that like what's slightly happening at this time really correlates with your energy levels too.
Mhm.
And so, when you're in your luteal phase, you shouldn't be like adding so many things into your plate if you can, or just really understanding what's most valuable to you to pick and choose so you don't drain your energy and kind of just get depleted and never have that chance to kind of catch up. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
men just don't have that. They wake up, they go to bed, they wake up, they go to bed, and we have to be a little bit more strategic in how we structure our days and kind of months around life,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so really with all of what Dr. Cece just said, like really just helping them to understand where you're at in your cycle and just really
I believe that they want to. Like,
Oh,
I
my
do
husband,
believe a lot of men want to. They want to
I
know how
think
to
so too.
support you, how to help you.
Yeah.
Um, they've actually kind of been kicked out of it for so long, and just
Mm-hmm.
understanding that they would probably really like to know where we're at and what's happening. So then, one, things don't get taken personal, but two,
Yeah.
like, they can just actually support us and help.
Oh yeah. When I'm at the beginning of my cycle and I'm just tired, I feel like crap. I'm crampy. I just can barely keep my eyes open. I have the heat pad on. I'm like popping the Aleve, which I don't do regularly, but just that
Yeah,
time
do what you gotta do.
when I just need that relief, my husband's like, "Okay, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Like, can I
Yeah.
make dinner? Can I clean up too?" And that's where it's super helpful in really letting them do that. Um, so I'd like to learn a little bit more about like how you treat your patients with all these like nervous system challenges. I understand every patient is obviously different, at least a little bit different, but if you could just kind of share some examples of how you help
Um,
your
I'll
patients.
I'll do my I'll do my best. Good again, because it feels a little like abstract in that way
Yeah,
too.
of course.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll do my best. So within our practice, we utilize the insight scans, and they just give us a lot of information of like how your nervous system is handling and managing your current level of stress, where things maybe need to be supported a little bit better, and kind of where we as practitioners can kind of support that change as well. So that's kind of my starting point because it just gets me all the facts to how to support people's nervous systems. And then it sounds so simple, but like my job is just to remove those areas that are hindering that function and that like internal intelligence to just naturally do things, and then kind of leave it alone and help build and support those changes. So
Mm-hmm.
we do it through the chiropractic adjustment. Those, again, there's so many different techniques within that. I know, again, traditionally people think of it like very harsh. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Depending on who and how and what kind of stressors are showing up within your body is going to kind of dictate how that nervous system needs to be supported through those changes. And so it depends on the person, but it also is like at the root, we are removing that interference so the nervous system can communicate with the brain and body and organs just as effectively as it was designed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not necessarily, I view myself as more of a facilitator of the healing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just taking what doesn't need to be there and allowing their bodies and nervous system to do what it was always designed to do
Yeah.
through a
So
very scientific lens.
yes, yes, yes. And I think, yeah, I mean,
It's
we
so
need
simple. Just kidding.
it. Yeah, well, it can be. I
It
think
can.
that, yeah,
On the foundation, it's so simple. Like,
yeah,
get rid of the things that are stressing you out and holding you down, and then you may be surprised by what you can flourish in.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So you do the scan and you learn a little bit more about what's the root cause is of, the
Yeah, just the dysfunction that might be happening.
yeah. Yeah, and then you make the chiropractic adjustments that, well, no pun intended, but align with
Yep,
kind of
exactly.
helping to fix what's going on.
Yeah, it just
Like,
helps. So I guess more so my like philosophy of where things or like health challenges kind of come from is just it's your body's ways of telling you there is an imbalance or a misalignment somewhere within your life. And so your body will tell you what's happening if you listen to it. So again, because I think people have gotten really used to being a little disconnected from their bodies
mhm.
and what it's telling them, um, me being that little facilitator just to say like, hey, this is what's showing up, any correlations, and just kind of help guiding it and giving a lot more insight and power just so then they can take those steps to kind of empower their health too.
Mhm.
To rewire the nervous system, just like any habit, it takes time and consistency,
Sure.
which is where kind of the long haul comes into play. But yeah, because it
Yeah.
kind of depends on the person
Yeah.
and how they kind of need to be supported and helped.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely, a marathon, not a sprint for sure. Um, so when do you feel like is like the best time for someone to come see you? Like, are there any like symptoms that you notice that people think are, because, okay, actually, let me just kind of rewind a little bit because I want to
Go
touch
ahead.
on, also touch, before I ask that question, I want to touch on something that you just said that really kind of stuck out to me is that, and I can't remember exactly what you said, so I'm not going to quote you verbatim, but
You're good.
you mentioned like people think that basically like being uncomfortable and like being in pain and being off balance, they've been in it for so long. It's just the norm for them. But
Yeah.
they don't, so many people don't realize that that's not actually what your body wants.
No, what is common and what is normal are two very different things. And I
Yeah.
know it seems like semantics, um, but like it really isn't common to have low back pain. That is something else is going on. There's with our perspective, we see that as your nervous system is no longer to adapt to whatever stress was it was kind of getting managed there. On a functional level, that usually results in like digestive issues.
Mm-hmm.
So even in like kids, a lot of times the kiddos that are really struggling with like constipation or gas challenges, as they grow and develop, that area of your nervous system is really primed for development and getting that structural integrity. And so typically that's when we start to see later on like a low tone or core issues. And
Mm-hmm.
kind of as you're saying, it's just, again, your body's telling you something if you just listen to a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like, I feel like years ago I wasn't in tune with my body. I didn't know what
No,
was
we're all
going
in,
on.
I mean, I'm here and I've still learned and new facets and new healing. And I think that's also the hard part is like you said, that uncomfortable,
Mhm.
um, healing's not always comfortable. Change isn't
No.
always nice. But it's that kind of like fruit at the other end that's kind of all worth it.
Yeah, it's just like when you're trying to just create a new habit and you're doing a reset, with your nervous system or with habits. I tell my clients like when you're creating a new habit, you have to do it over and over again,
Hmm.
because your brain is actually creating new neural nets. So you can just do it on autopilot down the road and it gets easier. But that's the hard part. The hard part in the beginning is just sticking to it, just sticking to that new habit.
Most people get it with like, or they understand it. I think with like if you're learning a new hobby or like a new skill, or like if you go and try to do a sport that you've never done before, um, people inherently know like it's going to be uncomfortable at first. But then when it comes to a little bit other parts of our health, I think there's this weird stigma
Yeah.
that it's like it shouldn't be hard or it shouldn't be uncomfortable and like within reason. But change is just not always going to feel the best,
Yeah.
which is why we don't always go off a feeling. We want to go off like, okay, let's go off of like how we're actually functioning through these things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of going through some mindset shifts myself, working on
Fun.
an area of my life where I'm just like, know that I could use, to use some healing. And it's hard.
Really
It's
hard.
it's very humbling for me going through this right now, because I definitely relate more to like what my clients are going through as they're, even like whether it be, working with, clients who are like health coaching clients specifically who are wanting to make lifestyle changes, but also like my fitness clients, when I introduce a new movement, they're like, oh my gosh, like what? Oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this. But then, once they do it over and over again, every time they get better and just really reminding myself that too with what I'm, going through right now with this mindset shift I'm working on is like, okay, the old habits coming back, but I have to work through that and remind myself this is a whole process. So, but having that, having a support system through it, like, like you, and it just makes it so much easier.
It does. We're not meant to go through life alone anyway. It just sometimes I think feels easier in certain aspects to just do it all your own and put your head down. But we're not meant to, and we're meant to have just community support, however that looks. And I know it's a lot harder for women these days to find good community support. So I love that here, taking care of families, we get to really like connect people and connect those communities, which is really nice and kind of a nice little byproduct.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. There's something powerful about like, just like the whole community aspect. Even if you're an introvert, there is something
It's just nice to know that the struggle, not even struggles, but the seasons that you can be in, it can be a good season, it can be a challenging season. If you're experiencing some changes, knowing somebody who's maybe going through it or had, like, it's just nice to know other people that are kind of in that phase with you or have been in that phase.
Yeah.
And I know for moms specifically, once they do go to postpartum, that's usually one of the hardest things that come into play. Because again, their community that maybe was once there and was for them is now typically for a baby. And it's a lot of mindset shifts. It's a lot of just change that can be really hard to kind of adapt and manage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's a new season in their life. And it's like, whoa, what's happening? And
the
sometimes
hormones. Like,
the hormones, the hormones just kind of make it all that more dramatic, right?
And you're not taught that like you're supposed to have dips and swings at these times, and those are normal. That's your body's normal response to recalibrating, and like nobody's told it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel like there's and like I said, I don't have kids myself, but I noticed that with my friends, and I noticed this with my sister when she had both my nephews, that they thought they were prepared, and then baby comes and they're like, oh my gosh. Like a friend of ours who just had a baby a couple months ago, I was texting her and just checking on her and the little one and dad, and she's like, oh man, we're just getting used to our new roommate. Good thing she's super cute. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like the funniest thing I've ever heard ever. Like it's like, yeah, it's like this is just such a huge adjustment, especially if baby comes early and you're like, I'm not ready for this. So especially me, like I like to prepare, I like to plan. I'm a planner, I'm a list maker. So if I went
I
through
am too.
yeah, I have my travel
For the
list.
most part.
Yeah, exactly. And oh man, if that happened to me, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with myself. But anyway,
you just learn.
yeah.
You do it. I think that's something I've seen with so many moms coming through here is I'm like, I don't know how you're doing it, but I'm amazed that you're doing it.
Yeah. And I think also like the encouragement like that, like you're really kind of helping them focus, like you're doing this, like you're actually doing it. And I feel like sometimes, especially after the baby comes, that moms don't get enough credit, even dads, like the parents don't get enough credit because like I mentioned, my sister was like, all the focus is on Dakota.
And common and what's common versus normal.
And what's common versus normal.
Yeah.
It's like there's common, which people think common is the norm. And it's like, no, that's not the norm. We need to.
It's become our norm, but it's not what was designed to be the norm,
Right.
really.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, in so many other cultures, like postpartum wise, moms were taken care of to support their healing because I think even even then it's been known that like if you want to have a healthy child, you have to have a healthy mom. That's the number one factor to have a healthy child, is the mom being healthy. And we somehow kind of got away from that.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh
know how,
man.
but we're here to try to, you know, carry the crusade, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, yeah, I can't even imagine, you know. So what else would you like to share with us about what you do? Anything about yourself, about your practice, like anything that you love most about what you do?
Oh, I love everything, to be honest. I really do. I really do just take time, because I am very grateful to be doing what I love and helping so many families and people. And it's such a amazing blessing that I do get to be a part of so many things. And then hopefully, the ultimate goal for myself is just to have that legacy and community kind of transcend a bit. But I love everything I get to do. I get to have families and kids and babies all around, and such just positive community aspects that I almost feel guilty, though. I'm like, this is work. This is fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what, that's kind of my thing too,
Yeah.
is, when you really really enjoy it and you're like, "Whoa, is this real? Is it actually happening? Do I get to do this like for a living?"
It's
You
just,
know?
yeah, it's like cool. I'm so like, again, I've wanted to help. I've done all these like hard works to get that way, but to be there helping so many people is honestly just such a really, this heartwarming thing. And I was like, wow. Sometimes I hear like, oh, work is stressful, and I'm like, yeah, there's obviously stress that happens, but overall, like, not to that level. I'm like, oh yeah, this is fun. This
Yeah.
is nice.
Yeah.
So I wish I could say just like one specific thing, but like I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel very fortunate to have created such a loving and welcoming kind of career
Hmm.
in practice. Like I'm just really fortunate for it.
Yeah. Well, you definitely exude that.
Oh, thanks.
In
Thanks.
in your voice, and um in like your energy, and it just I think that's one of the reasons also why I, when we first talked over Zoom, kind of like gravitated towards you and was really
Thank
excited
you.
when you agreed to be on the podcast, because I just sense that you just create like this warm, welcoming, calming environment for your patients. And
I try.
yeah,
I
well,
do try. So thank
you're,
you.
yeah, you're doing it. I can sense that in the way you speak about it. And that's really important, because when people come see you, they
I don't know what to think.
they they don't know what to think.
They
I'm sure
don't.
some of them don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
It could
And
be out of.
a lot of these families are coming because they've gone to every other outlet that they thought they could. So this is, oftentimes it's sad, but we are kind of their last hope. And
Mm,
I think, like you said, just trying to also be that, like, if you can help, like, we got this, you know, you're with us now, is again something that we don't take lightly too. And I can't take all the credit too, because I do have a wonderful team
mm,
who is right alongside me with that mission, who is just like has a heart of service. So I can't take
mm.
all the credit, but definitely have a good support system here too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you need that too, you know, as the owner and the doctor there. You definitely need that support system,
Yeah, they're great.
around
Anybody
you.
who does this, I'll say it. Half the time, the kids aren't even asking for me; they're asking for Sam or Michelle or Andrea. So,
They're
where's
like,
she? I'm like,
Dr. Cece, who's that?
yeah. They're like, I want to see Sam. I'm like, okay. So,
All right, fine.
yeah.
What am I, chopped
See
liver?
you later.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, go have fun with Sam.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah,
She colors a lot better than me. That's fine. But
yeah. So she colors inside the lines and I don't. Yeah.
so
Um,
it's great too. So
yeah.
thank you for having
Yeah.
me on here. This has been, for again, my first one. I was like, this is
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, this is fun, isn't it? Yeah, it's fun, kind of, I always like to say, geeking out on health and wellness,
Oh,
in
I
the
could go
body
for
and
days.
And oh gosh, so can I. Yeah, I'd love, you're always welcome back on. I'm sure there's a million other things we could talk about that you do in your practice and how you help your patients that we haven't even like scratched the surface with what you do, I'm sure. So, because I know you do a lot, and I appreciate the work that you do, and in a more holistic way, because I'm all about. I remember years ago, this was early 2000s. A friend of ours was dating this chiropractor, but he, this was 25 years ago, so it was a long time
Oh,
ago.
there's the
And
beauty and the burden of our profession. There's so many different like facets,
yes,
and I totally understand why the general public is kind of like, what are you talking
mhm.
about? Because there's so many different ways this kind of can play into like health. So
Yeah,
whatever
and
he did, I'm sorry, but
yeah,
like, oh yeah.
oh gosh, there's no way also he's listening to this. It'd be a miracle if he found this podcast. But I remember we were just called, yeah, um, yeah, I just was not on board. And I've been adjusted once, and it was years ago, and I just was not really a fan of it. But it was also at this time, the practice I went to was more like a traditional
Yeah, more
chiropractor, and
mechanical, pain
yeah,
based, and like, yeah, it's
yeah,
a totally different feeling with it too. And
yeah.
so that's when, like, I get it. I understand why other others can be a little like not even apprehensive, but just even like confused and like what? Because my experience here was so different, and
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I feel for everybody. I get it. So
Yeah. And that's why I'm always excited to, meet, chiropractors like you, where you're more holistic. And I love that you do the whole scan and you kind of see, okay, what's the root cause? What's the nervous system doing? We have to make sure the nervous system is operating properly, because that just makes a big difference. And
yeah, part of
um,
his quality of life. At the end of the day, I do believe most chiropractors go into this to help people, and the ultimate goal is just to improve their quality of life.
mhm.
Like, so simply put, that's usually all that anybody who goes into chiropractic is trying to do most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So you work with in person, right? Do you do anything
Yes.
virtually, or okay?
No,
Not
not
yet. Okay.
not yet. I don't know. We'll
Yeah,
see.
maybe down the road. Yeah.
Um,
I
but
know
I'm
it's
like, yeah,
I
we're
know
a
you
hands-on profession for a reason. So I wish I
yeah.
could do things virtually, but I kind of
Yeah.
have to have you here to help you. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I will put your website
thank
um
you.
in the show notes.
Yeah,
And then keep forgetting to ask you, are you on like social media at all? Because
we are on Instagram. So
okay.
I do honestly, our website's wonderful. You saw
Yes.
it, but I do recommend a lot of people to go follow our social media because we do post just not only a lot about kind of our community and like all the great kind of, we call them wins, but just, the great things that people are experiencing. But we do post a lot of like information out there too.
Mm-hmm.
And even just other ways that you can maybe support your health, even if you're not coming to our office. We like to still support and kind of build that community wherever we can. So I always recommend our Instagram, which is just Simply Well Chiropractic.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and it's fun. You'll see some
Cool.
cute babies too.
Oh my gosh, I love that. With
I know
cute.
I'm so biased, but I'm like, of course we have the cutest babies. But
Of course you do. Yeah,
yeah, of
of course.
course.
It's like babies and animals are
Who
like
doesn't
my
love them?
thing. I know.
Yeah.
I'm like cute little babies and just yeah, and cute animals. My husband knows he has no competition with like other men. It's the babies and the animals. When we were at Disney World last year, the first day we were there, we got on the bus to go to Magic Kingdom. This I think he was like a year old, blue eyes, blonde haired little boy was with
Oh.
his family, and grandma and grandpa were there. They were celebrating grandma's birthday. He
Oh,
just sat next to me and I was like, oh my gosh.
I'm in love.
Yes. Oh my
I
gosh.
know. See, I even forget that I get to have this experience all day. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, this is my norm. This isn't everybody's norm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool.
I know. And I used to work at a preschool years ago back in
Oh,
college.
you can just come hang out.
And it was,
Just come hang out with us.
yeah, it was so fun. Oh my, it was a little stressful at times, but oh
Yeah.
man, those kids though,
I worked at a daycare too,
you did.
and I loved it. It was stressful at times, but I did love it.
Yeah, I know. I worked there with my sister and we still kind of reminisce. Be like, remember so and so? Remember
I
how
worked in
cute
one
he
with my
was?
best friend, and we still do. Like, do you remember? Yeah, so and so, and it was just so fun. I loved it.
Yeah. So, anyways, so all right. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Cece. I know you're a busy woman helping families, so I really appreciate you taking the time. And um, if you're open to it, we'll have you back on again and
Would
share
love to
some
be
more.
back. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. And then I'll put your website. And okay, Dr. Cece, they do have a beautiful website. I've got
Thank
to
you. I
say,
can't take credit for it. I didn't do it, but thank you.
yes, whoever designed your website and built it, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. And I can only imagine like I could, it's just visually, it's just so amazing. And I could just tell that that's the feeling I'm going to feel, hopefully one day may head down to Seal Beach and come visit your office just for
Of
fun.
course.
But it's just very warm and welcoming, your website. So
Thank
anyway.
you. Yeah, if you guys want their info too, I'll share it. But
Yeah. So,
she's like, yeah.
yeah, I know. Gosh, I know. But cool. All right. Well, we'll put all your contact info, your Instagram, so people can go follow you on Instagram. And yeah, and we'll have you on again and we'll figure out another fun topic.
Can't wait.
Cool. Awesome.
Hey, thank you.
The Wellness Abundance Podcast is sponsored by Wellness Abundance Coaching. At Wellness Abundance Coaching, we help women create flexible nutrition and fitness plans that fit into their life to help them lose weight effortlessly and navigate the different hormonal seasons of their life with clarity, empowerment, and flexibility. We offer one-on-one and group health and fitness coaching. To learn more about how we can help you navigate the different seasons of your life and become the healthiest version of yourself, schedule a time to chat with us by visiting melissaking.net.